In this video, we're going to look at Chapter 3 and some of the major topics covered in Chapter 3, which includes creating charts, percentage of the total, rate of change, just to name a few of the topics. So let's begin by opening up our file, which is called Chapter 3 Practice. After opening up our file, we can see that it's made up of two sheets. First one is expenses. The second sheet is called projected decrease. Let's click on expenses and take a look at that sheet. We're going to begin, when we look at that sheet, we have various types of expenses from here to here. We have 4 quarters of expenses. And what we're going to have to do is calculate the expenses for the entire year and also the expenses by quarter. Lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the percentage of the total right in here. So let's begin by calculating the total expenses by quarter. One way of doing that is by highlighting our expenses for the first quarter. So we're going to highlight it first. After highlighting it, we're going to click on Auto Sum. We have an amount here, but it's just so important to click in that cell, in cell A10, which has our amount. And we want to double check that formula. It's showing us up here that the formula is equal to summing the range from B5 to B9. But an easier way of looking at that is by double left clicking. It's called a range finder. And by double left clicking, it's graphically showing us what numbers are being added up. We're summing, starting at B5. Colon means a range, all the way over to B9. Let's hit the escape. Seeing that that formula is correct, we can now copy that pattern across. And the easiest way of copying that pattern is by going to the fill handle. We have our small little plus here. Hold down our left mouse and drag it across. Let's quickly double check our formula here. We can double check it by quickly double left clicking. Next, we're going to compute the annual expenses. And the annual expenses is a sum starting from quarter 1 all the way over to quarter 4. So we're adding all 4 quarters. Right now, we're up in cell F5. If I wanted to, I could highlight these numbers and then click Auto Sum. But another way of doing that is by going up into Auto Sum, clicking the down arrow, and then clicking the Sum button. Once again, we're seeing graphically what this formula is, and it's telling us that we want to add those numbers starting in cell B5 all the way over to E5. We're going to click the check mark, go to our fill handle, and we're going to copy that pattern down. Go to our fill handle, hold down the left mouse, and drag it right to here. So we now know what our grand total is for the year, what our total expenses are. And to have that stand out, what I'm going to do I've clicked in cell F10. I'm going to click on the paint bucket to make it yellow. So we want that total to stand out. Because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to calculate one of the most important of all formulas, which is we're going to calculate the percentage of the total. And the way to do that, we're going to begin by clicking in cell G5. It's going to be a formula. But before we even begin, we're going to think of what we're trying to do. What we want to do is we have a number of expenses, the salaries, the machinery, materials. But we want to calculate for each of those expenses the percentage of the total. Now, if you didn't have Excel and all you had was a calculator, what you would do is for this first one here, salaries and benefits, you would take your calculator and you would say 3 million divided by the grand total of 15 million. The next one would be 3 million divided by 15 million. 3 million divided by 15 million. Like they just so happened that they're all equal to 3 million. But that aside, the key point is that we're always dividing by 15 million, by our total. That is an absolute. It's fixed, okay? We're always going to be dividing by that. So, equal sign. Click on our first 3 million, which happens to be in F5, divided by the 15 million. And the key point here is that we want to lock in that 15 million. We want to lock in that F10, because that's always going to be the divisor, or divider rather, or denominator, okay? 3,000, and it's always going to be divided by 15 million. So how we lock that in is by making that value an absolute. And by tapping F4, what's now happened is that F10 is locked in. And we know it's locked in because we now have a $ F and a $10. And how we got that is by tapping F4, function key F4. Hit your check mark. If you want to double check it, you can see what our formula is. We can now go to our fill handle and drag that pattern down. Let's do a little bit of formatting. And what we're going to do next is create the percent style format. Click here. Let's center those percentages. Come over here and click on center. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to create a 3D pie chart that's going to be showing the annual totals for each item. Now, all charts are always based upon the information within the spreadsheet. So we have to highlight that information that we want to chart. We're going to begin by highlighting from A5 to A9. Very important, you notice how I do not, and I repeat, I do not highlight the totals here. Next, we're going to hold down the Control key. And I'm going to highlight this area here, which is basically F5 to F9. So we have these two areas that are highlighted. We're going to click on the Insert tab We're then going to go over to pie charts, which are right here. Hit the down arrow, and we want a 3D pie chart. So click on that. For this pie chart, we want it to appear on a separate sheet. A couple of ways of doing that is by clicking on Move the Chart, or when you're within here, you can also click, right-click, and then move that chart. So you have your chart. Once again, if you click here, right-click, still another way of doing it, right-click, and then we have the ability to move that chart right here. So I'm going to click on that. Could have done it either way. Move the chart, click here on a new sheet, and we're going to name that new sheet Annual Expenses Chart. Here's our sheet name. Click OK. You can see it's now in a whole new sheet right here. Next, we're going to change the chart title. We click here. Come up into this box here. And the chart title will be Summary of Annual Expenses. So we have our chart title. We have our chart title here. And what we want to do next is to change the word art style. How you get that is making sure that this tab has been selected for format. Here's our word art style. I'm going to hit that down arrow. Keep in mind that you can hover over any of these styles. And each style will then be named. I'm going to select this second one. It's called Fill Blue Accent 1 Shadow. Click on it. Everything has been changed. I want to next take that and change the font size for that title. I get that by now right-clicking. Come down here to Font. For size, I'm going to make it 28. For font style, let's make it bold and italic. Click OK. Next thing we want to do for our chart is to remove the legend. Now the legend is right down here, giving a translation for each color and what each color stands for. A few different ways of doing that. I could click on the legend and then hit the delete key. Still another way of doing it is by coming up here to the plus, the chart elements, clicking on that plus, and then unchecking the legend. So by clicking in there, my legend is now gone. Next, we want to show our labels. Okay, right now we don't know what these sections stand for. The way to do that is by coming over here to Data Labels, hit our arrow, scroll down to More Options. Within here, right now we have some of our labels showing, but we want to choose what we want to have showing in actuality. And the way to do that is we're going to uncheck our values. So if they're no longer showing, we're going to click on Category Name, click on Percentage, Whenever you have a pie chart, you always want to show your percentages. Uncheck our leader lines. Uncheck it. Our label position, let's center it. Right now it's showing as best fit, but we're going to center it. Next, what we want to do is choose all of our labels. Just by clicking on one label, you notice they're all chosen. And we're going to format the labels so that we're going to change the size to 12 and also make all the labels bold and italic. So we've chosen all the labels. Right click, go to Font, Font Style is bold and italic. For the size, we're going to change it from 9 to 12. Click on OK. So everything has been changed here. Next, we want to kind of format the data series using a 3D format effect. Once again, we want to format the data series using a 3D format effect. How you go about that is by clicking somewhere within the chart area, but do not click on one of the labels. So somewhere within the chart area, click here, and by clicking somewhere outside of the chart labels, you end up getting this box here that's showing Format Data Series. Next, we want to format the data series using a 3D format effect. So it's been chosen here, format our data series. Next, we're going to click on Effects, this middle icon. We want to adjust the bevel. We want to adjust the top bevel and also the bottom bevel. Top bevel, we're going to change to 50 points. And for the bottom bevel, 256. So we've changed our bevel, both the top bevel and the bottom bevel. Next, we're going to move down to Material, hit the down arrow, go over to Standard, and choose Metal. Next, we're going to go to the Series Options. Once again, if you hover over here, we're going to click on Series Options. We want to set the angle of the first slice to 125. And how you do that is by moving down here. We're saying angle of first slice. Type in 125. Hit Enter. And you can see how the entire chart is turned around. Next, we're going to select the Salaries and Benefits slice, which is right here. You can see right now that everything has been selected. But to select just that slice, you click it once. So Salaries and Benefits has been selected. We want to explode it out by 10% or move it out. Easiest way of doing that is by coming over here where it says Point Explosion. We want to move it out to 10%. Hit Enter. The slice has been moved out. While this slice is still selected, we're going to change the fill color. How you do that? Coming up to the paint bucket, We're going to change it to a solid fill. Come down to our colors. We're going to just choose this color right here, blue accent 1. To format the chart area, how you format the chart area is by coming up here where it says Series Options. Hit the down arrow and select Chart Area. We're going to select a gradient fill. Come down here to Preset Gradients. Hit the down arrow. We're going to choose this one right here. Now, once again, if you hover over it, it will tell you what you're selecting. Light Gradient Accent 4. Next, we're going to select the border. Now, once again, it's very hard to see that. It's not showing right now. So in order to select the border, we need to click up here where it says Fill. And now border is showing. Click on the arrow. And for the border of the chart area, what we're going to do is select a solid line. And then choose our color. I'm going to choose this one, Gold Accent 4. And we're going to choose a width. Right over here, here's our width. 5 point. Hit enter. We'll display the page setup dialog box because we're going to prepare this for printing. How we get that is by clicking on page layout. Here's our page setup. Click on the arrow. We're going to choose a custom footer, header and footer, custom footer, left side, and we're going to show the file name. Click OK. And click OK again. Next, we're going to go to the Expenses worksheet. We're on the Expenses worksheet, and we're going to create another chart. What the chart is going to do is going to display the expenses by quarter. And we're going to use a line with markers chart to do that. So first off, we're going to highlight here from B4 to E4. Hold down our control key and highlight our totals. Click on Insert, Line with Markers. Hit the down arrow. Here's our Line with Markers chart. Come into the chart. We have our cross. Drag it over to A12. Let's click on the chart and come up here and rename the chart title. Chapter 3, Annual Expense Summary. Next, we're going to format the bounds of the vertical axis, or the y-axis. Click on the y-axis. So we've clicked on a number within the y-axis. The entire y-axis has been chosen. Next, click on Format Axis. And now what we're going to do is adjust our bounds. Our minimum bound we're going to change to 2 million, which I've already done. And our major units will be 500,000. Now I've already done that, but you can see the results of it if you come over to the chart itself. Our lowest number, or our minimum, is now 2 million, and you can see that the numbers in the y-axis are changing at a 500,000 rate of change. Next, we're going to change or format the fill of the chart area with a gradient fill. Come up here to Axis Options, hit the down arrow, move to Chart Area. We're going to change it to a gradient fill, so we have Chart Area. Click on the paint bucket, a gradient fill, preset gradients. Let's choose this one right here, light gradient, accent 4. Next, we're going to format the plot area. Come up here, choose plot area. It's a fill, solid fill. Click on the color, and we'll choose this color right here, gray 25% background. Now we're going to copy the annual total in F10, and we're going to use Paste Special to paste only the values and the numbers into cell B35. So we're up here in F10, right click, copy. Move down and click on cell B35, right click, and we're going to go up to Paste Special. Move over here and click on Values and Number Formatting. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to determine the rate of change. So starting off in the year 2016, this is our expenses. And we're going to have a rate of change right now of 3.15, or rather 3.5, which happens to be in cell B31. Now our rate of change formula is developed by clicking in cell C35. It's a formula. It's going to start off with an equal sign. Our base period is right here in cell B35, multiplied by, open parenthesis, 1 plus our rate of change, which is in cell B31. But we're always going to be increasing at 3.5. It's an absolute number. It is fixed. So we need to make that cell B31 into an absolute. And we do that by tapping function key F4. By doing that, we have our rate of change, B31. We've made that into an absolute. It's now showing a $B, $31. We're always going to be looking at that cell to get that rate of change. Close our parenthesis. Check mark. To double check our formula, we can quickly double left click. So it's taking the value here, multiplying it by 1 plus that rate of change, which is B31. And the most important element here, or one of the most important elements, is that B31 is an absolute. We can now go to our fill handle and drag it across. Next, what we want to do is we want to copy the formatting that is in cell B35. We want to copy it to the formulas that we just created. So we have our formatting in B35. We click on the Format Painter. We have our paintbrush, and we can now drag or highlight that area. We're going to be copying that formatting, release, and all of our formatting has just been completed. Next, let's click on the projected decrease sheet. So we're on our projected decrease sheet. And once again, we're going to calculate the percentage of the total. But before we do that, we need to fill in the information here for our annual totals. And how we're going to do that is we're going to use a reference formula to bring over the annual expenses from the expense sheet. And once again, it's a reference formula. And as we know, all formulas begin with an equal sign. So we're going to start off by clicking on the equal. Click on the expense sheet. Click in cell F5. Once again, what this formula is showing us is that we're going to bring over from the expenses sheet the value in F5. Click the check mark. That value has been brought over, and the value is coming from the expense sheet in cell F5. It's going to be the same pattern, so what we can do is we can go into the fill handle and drag that pattern down. Now we're ready to create a percentage of the total, equal sign. Click on that first 3 million, divided by the grand total. That grand total is an absolute. It's always going to be the denominator. So to make that an absolute, we're going to tap F4. By doing that, we have our dollar signs. a $B, and a $10. What that means is we've locked in that B10 value. We've made it into an absolute. Come to our fill handle, drag it down. Let's format this into percentages. Click on Home. Come over here to Percentage. Let's center it, which it is. I always like to double check my formulas. By just coming to this point here in cell C9, I can quickly double left click. It's showing me what my formula is. It's the 3 million divided by that absolute. $B, $10. What we're going to do next is going to use GoalSeek. Use an example of GoalSeek. I'm going to go up to B8. I'm going to copy that amount in B8. I'm going to go down to cell B13, right click, and we're going to do once again a paste special. Paste values. It's the middle one here for values and number formatting. I'm then going to go into cell C8, copy that value, come down to C13, right click, and do a regular paste, not a paste special, but a regular paste. How I get my GoalSeek is I'm on C13, click on the Data tab, come over to What If Analysis, GoalSeek, to value, we're going to change it to 25%, 0.25. By changing what cell, we're going to click on cell B13. Once again, we have to be in this box here. Click on B13, click OK, click OK again. To insert a custom footer, page layout, page setup, header footer, custom footer, left side, insert file name. Click OK, click OK again. Thank you.